Well, hello and welcome back to River Valley Farm. Today, my 02 F-250 73 has kind of let me down. Anyway, had a problem with it last week. After I shut it off, it wouldn't start back. I stuck a cam position sensor in it and it still wouldn't start. That's just something, you know, kind of a rough guesstimate. If you shut it off and then it won't start back up after, you know, been sitting for a little bit, then probably more than likely that's the cause. Still wouldn't start after that. Like I said, it was dark. I didn't feel like messing with it, so I left it sit overnight and it fired right up. And then, so I drove it a little bit and got it back home. And then wouldn't start after I'd had it sitting for a couple hours. So we have a failure in our high pressure oil system. Yay. So anyway, to start with, I need something to stand on, because though I am tall, I'm not tall enough to do that. Anyway, here's a bucket.
Full of oil, right?
Yeah, it's got oil in it. That way it'll be a little bit more stable, huh? Okay, so there's a bucket we can stand on. So, of the possibilities that we have here, get some light. The ICP sensor here could be part of the issue. If I can do this without falling down. IPR valve, which is, I don't even know where it is on this particular model. Basically what it amounts to is we probably have a high pressure oil leak, a bypass of some sort. Oh, there it is down in there in its usual hiding place. Yeah, that's it right there. So we have that is a possibility. The ICP sensor is a possibility. I already eliminated that because I unplugged it when it wouldn't start, and it still didn't start. It should at least start. If that's the problem, you unplug it. It should give you an idle reading and it should fire up. So yeah, we are going to start with the IPR valve injection pressure regulator valve, which is this jewel of a thing down in here, and work our way out from there. Basically, your choices are in this situation, since it's a hot no start: ICP sensor and circuit, IPR valve and circuit, and injectors. But also, oh fun, and of great expense, the high pressure oil pump could possibly be bad. I hope it's not, but we'll find out. So yeah, I'm gonna start by ripping that IPR valve out of there, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so a whole lot of expletive language later, and a little bit of patience, an 1 1/8" socket, and a flex head ratchet, and you can get your IPR valve out of here without the special tool that they say is required. So yeah, I've got it broke down into its components, because you will have to do that. You will have to remove the nut, spacer, and solenoid to get your IPR valve out. Okay, so see if I can find some place for this camera to sit. Anyway, upon inspection, I can't really see anything wrong there. O-ring looks good and all that good stuff. O-ring, backing ring, all looks good. So if the camera will focus, maybe you can see that too. Anyway, yeah, there you go. That one's not too bad. So yeah, I guess it's time to put this back in and see what else is going on here. Actually, no, not quite yet. We can do one more thing.
What?
If I can find a screwdriver real quick. Which is right there. Okay, so
Dad, there's stuff in my shoe.
I think that should work. We can try this. I don't know, that seems awfully weak to me. But it's not going to require much force to get that to open up and allow it to build oil pressure to fire the injectors. So, put this, I don't know if that's going to work or not. It's not, well, there's a little nick in it right there. That may be the cause. I don't know. We'll have to see. Alright, so as I was saying, I really can't see anything wrong with this piece, and that was kind of my hopeful easy fix for this. A lot of times those O-rings will blow and then it'll be hard to start when warm or no start when warm, and that's what I'm getting. So now to put this back in, see what happens. And it's about the best I'm going to be able to do for right now. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to keep tearing. We'll have to go into the injectors and see if we've got any leakage in there, so on and so forth. So we'll get back to you in a minute. Alright, so we've got our IPR back in, which is that guy right there. Again, really didn't find anything wrong with it, but we're going to go ahead and see if it'll start up, just for hope, basically, because I really don't want to have to tear into the injectors. The OBS trucks were a little bit easier to get into the injectors in. This one not so much, because it has a charge air cooler and all that good stuff. It's running a little rough because I had that IPR out. It's going to take it a second to bleed out. But it did start. It did start, so that's a good thing. Our temperature gauge is back down though, so I don't know whether that's a true sign that it's fixed or not. So we're probably gonna have to drive it and see what happens then. Everything seems to have smoothed out and be all right as far as getting the oil system bled back out. So we're gonna shut it off, give it a few, and see if it'll start back or not. So I'll get back to you here shortly. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes. Let's see what happens. It did start, but it's still a little hard to start, so I think we've still got an issue. We're gonna have to take it and drive it and see what it does. That's the best thing I know to do at this point in time. So we'll take it and get it warmed up and then see what happens. I guess that's all we can do. Anyway, we'll be back to you in a minute. Okay, so welcome back. It is 4 days later now, I believe. Still do actually have issues, but yeah, I never even got the valve covers completely off of this thing yet, because the bolt that holds your dipstick tube on is the nut that holds the dipstick tube to the stud is seized, and then the back bolt on this side, I have I'll move that light so we can see something maybe. The black bolt back there by the firewall has been a pain too. I've tried pretty much everything I have to throw at it and haven't been able to get it out yet. I remember this being a lot easier back in the day when I did this kind of stuff for a living, but anyway, it's not anymore. And as you may have saw, I got my meter now. So just because of the way this thing is being so odd, now this has never been a real common problem, but we're actually going to pull a IPR solenoid back off. Good times that is, and ohm test it. It should be between like 10.2 and 10.8, 11, you know, somewhere in that area ohms for a test. So that's what we're going to check right now, just because you know, this thing is being extremely odd. You know, if you leave it sit for just a couple of minutes, it'll go ahead and restart. But if you park it for you know, an hour, it won't. So kind of wondering if maybe that coil isn't getting hotter than, you know, sitting there with the heat radiating up out of the engine. If it's not getting it hotter than it is, you know, not an actual current through it issue causing it to get hot, but just, you know, something is not working right. Anyway, we're going to pull that back off and ohm test it real quick, and then we'll go from there. See how much patience I have today for valve cover bolts. Anyway, let me get that thing pulled out and we'll go from there. Alright, so we have it back out of there. The test is pretty simple. It's just 2 pins. So touch both pins, and that, I believe, is out of spec. So let's check this. Yep, 0.1, 0.2. Okay. These little pins are kind of a bear to touch sometimes. That's 11. 12, yeah, it's kind of ohming all over the place. Let me point this camera where maybe we can see a little bit better. Make sure I can see what I'm seeing here. Okay, so as I said, that's supposed to be right about there. That's 10.1, so that should be good. 10.2, 10.3. If we touch it another way, there's 13. There's 50, 20, yeah. While I can't really see there's anything externally wrong with this coil, yeah, it's just kind of reading whatever it wants to read here pretty much. So 25, yeah. So if I can do, there's 27, 19, Make sure my meter is reading kind of messed up. Make sure we get that straightened out here. Sorry, this has been my field meter and it's not doing so great today, but anyway. By what that's telling me, which, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's something not right with this damn thing either. Try this again, see if I get a... Okay, so there's 0.5 ohms through my leads. See what we got now. 3. So that's 11.3. That should be okay. So far as I can tell, I'm gonna say that this coil's still good. My meter's screwing up. It's got a, I don't know, that doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, I guess now I get to continue trying to pull the valve covers off. Yay for me. Alright, so here is the culprit for the right hand valve cover, why it wouldn't come off. I did some price checking and availability checking. Dipstick tubes are available for this thing, so I decided to just go ahead and cut this little bracket off. I had to take the battery out so I could get in there to do it, but you know, basically this is what 16-year-old 200,000 mile trucks will do, especially here in the salt belt, as I prefer to call it, because you know, things wouldn't rust any worse here than they do anywhere else other than for all the salt. So now to see if we can get this nut separated from this stud and get the rest of this bracket off. As I said, I did price check on the dipstick tube. I don't know how much of that you could see in there, but this should be straight right down here, and it obviously is not, because I twisted it up trying to get it break loose. On a good note, it does just slip down in there and then bolt to here. I would really like to go back to the OBS style, but I don't think I can because of where the air conditioner, the HVAC box sits on this one. The OBS one had a 2-bolt bracket that bolted here and back there. Much better design, but with the Super Duty cab and what have you, it didn't work out so well, I guess. So they had to come up with this other thing that caused me to do this. Now, of course, the dipstick tube's only, like, I think the most expensive one I saw was 30 bucks. So that's not too bad. Let me see if I can get this thing apart. We'll get the valve cover off, pull some of the necessity covers. You know, see, I've got rags covering stuff. We'll have to pull some of those off and go from there before we can crank it and look for leaks. So after heating that up to about 600 degrees, it finally came loose. And the stud and nut are actually both still usable. So yeah, we'll be putting that back on with anti-seize. So that's just bullshit. But anyway, So now we can yank the valve cover off, and I actually have a remote starter button. I'm going to use that to crank this thing with, see what we can see. Alright, so if I can get my light back. We finally got the passenger side valve cover off. I ended up having to remove the AC compressor to get that out of there, and then now I'm gonna have to remove the serpentine belt. So this is just getting more and more fun all the time. While I'm in this far, I might as well pull this piece of junk out here like so. Again, it does just slide in, so that's easy. That's a tad bit beyond repair. Even before I ground on it trying to get the bracket cut off, so that's junk. Anyway, this video is probably already like 28, 29 minutes long, guys, so stay tuned for part 2. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more. If you like the video, press like. If you don't like the video, press dislike. I'm having one of those days where I just really don't care. Again, thanks for watching.